In this next tutorial, I want to create a banner, something that's kind of standing on a standard, kind of supported by a post and beam, something that can go in the campsite we started constructing. One of the previous tutorials, we went through and we created a set of beams and posts, and we kind of built an object out of that. All right, and so we're going to kind of go back to those original objects. Unhide all, there's my beams. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do File, Save As Selected, and in that same folder I'm going to do Source Beams and save that. So now if I go File, Open, there's my beams. Now I'm just going to do File, Save As, and I'm just going to do Standard 01. Alright, save that. Okay. So let's take this main beam. I'm going to clone him over here so that he's sitting there in the center of the map. And I'm going to want to make this thing a little bit tall. So I'm going to switch to squat, select and squash. Squash and stretch. That's the word I was struggling to remember there. I'm going to make this a little bit taller. That is going to stretch out the texture, but because it's kind of a wood, I think it kind of works. It's not too bad. We can handle that. Alright, so I'm just going to hold Alt and drag this up. Alternatively, you could just do clone and move that up. I'm just going to rotate this 90 degrees here. Let's go out to our quad view. Alright, and let's go in. We're moving this over to the side. Now I'm just going to scale him in, but I'm going to turn off squash and stretch. Just make it a little bit thinner in. There we go. I'm just going to set that so it's kind of sitting right on top. And then let's go ahead and take our thinner board here, and here in the front, we're just going to kind of move him over. I'm going to scale him down, make him a little bit thinner, rotate him. And I might even switch to my scale here and switch to local. Just make it a little bit thinner this way. And just rotate him over. I kind of want to make him kind of sitting on top there. Let's line him up from the side. So give it a nice little bit of depth. Get another one over on the other side. A nice little bit of form for our kind of standard here. There we go. That'll work. I think this guy could probably be a little bit thinner. Perfect. I think that'll work. I just zoom in, make sure that none of my texture looks like it's stretching too much. I think this will work just fine. And one thing to keep in mind is now that I look, I see that the wood grain's exactly the same. So I'll real quick switch to rotate along the local axis, and with my angle snap, just rotate this thing 180 degrees. There we go. He still lines up, but now the wood grain's not exactly the same on both sides. Perfect. Okay, so my next step is I'm going to start using cloth. All right, so here in the front, I'm going to go ahead and make a plane about the size that I want my banner, my standard, to be. Alright, let's take a look at its size. So we'll make this 200 by 100. It's a nice 2:1 aspect ratio. That way when we create our texture, we can make it 2:1. Raise this up. Now we can see we can go ahead and stretch this guy back out again. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So now here, this plane, this is going to be my cloth. So I'm just going to call this standard. And in order for cloth to work, I need to have a lot more polygons. So I'm going to do 20 by 10. I could probably do a lot more like that. Let's do 200 by 100. The more polygons you have, the better the model is going to be able to deform with the cloth modifier. Alright, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add cloth, and I'm going to go into group. Now I'm just going to come over here and select the vertex points in the corner. And I'm going to say make group, and that's going to be corners. And then I'm going to attach them to a node, and I'm just going to use this beam up here as the node. Now my cloth simulation will not be able to interact with this beam because I just used it as a node. If I wanted to use that beam in the simulation, I would have to go make a dummy object, at which point I could come over here and attach the node to the dummy object instead. Now my cloth would be able to interact with the beam as long as I made sure that they weren't actually intersecting each other. Okay, so now my next step is just to go into object properties, select this cloth, which I named standard, go to cloth and tell it what type. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use satin because I want it to really hang a lot there. So we'll just say okay. And because I'm in an older version, sometimes it's good to double check and make sure it's actually set properly. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to save my file. And now I just say simulate. And so that's going to go and it's going to run the simulation. The cloth's going to start to drop down. So I'm going to pause that while this runs. Actually, I can see already that this is hanging way too much, so I'm just going to cancel that. I'm going to change the settings. Let's change it to burlap and hit simulate. There you go. Let's run a little bit slower. So I'm going to pause this tutorial while that runs. Okay, so you can see here that my simulation has finished running. So I'm just going to come over here and come out to the quad view. You can see how the cloth has kind of deformed. So it's a little bit bland. I think what I might do is, so you can see the cloth starts and it drops down. That's kind of boring. Let's go in here and in the group, I only did the corners. Let's get a couple more points and see if we can get something a little bit more interesting. Let's just get this one point here. I'm just going to grab this one point here. We're going to make a group out of them. And we're going to use the node function to node it to the same dummy. And we'll go up to cloth. And under object properties, we're going to change the cloth settings to let's do wet cloth. Just out of curiosity, let's see what that does. And we'll simulate that. Alright. Erase simulation and then rerun the simulation. Alright, so the cloth is starting to drop down. Alright, I'm going to pause this tutorial again while this continues to run. It looks like my simulation is complete, so let's take a look at this. Go out here, F4. Alright. That works. It's got a little bit of pinching up at the top. Kind of like the look of that. That looks pretty good. I think I can go ahead and give that out. It would be nice if there's a little bit more happening with it. Why don't I just do... I'm going to save this, and then real quick I'm going to get a little bit of wind. I'm going to make a wind object out here and move it back. And let's just kind of position it up in the air. Because I mean, this banner is alright, it's just hanging there, and it'd be nice if it had a little bit of a little bit more shape to it. And I'm not looking to make it blow, I'm not animating it, but it'd be nice if it had a little bit more form. So I'm going to come here, I've added the wind, which is here under warps, and I'm going to go ahead and select the cloth, and under cloth forces I'm going to add the wind to it. And then I'm just going to erase the simulation and then start it over again. Alright, and I'm going to pause it to see, because I really want a very subtle effect of the wind on this, just to give it a little bit of form. So we'll pause it and see how this turns out. Alright, so I'm partway through and you can see that the wind is definitely moving it, but it made it super boring still. So let's take another look at that. See, it just goes boring. Alright, let's try something a little bit more interesting. We'll take this, maybe take a little bit over to the side. More like that. Give it a slight turbulence. And we'll do this one last time. Here we go. It's going to drop down. Simulation starting. I'm going to pause it, give it a couple frames to go. Alright, so we're back. You can see the simulation ran, and it is once again incredibly boring. So I think I'm probably going to cut out all of these tests and just go with one. First off, delete the wind, erase the simulation. Actually, don't erase it. Yeah, erase the simulation. Run it one more time. You know what? Let's do this. Let's take this whole thing. We're just going to set this to view, and we're going to rotate it just a tiny bit, ever so slightly. If you think about it, imagine the weight of the cloth is causing this thing to kind of hang a little bit over to the side. Maybe we'll keep the angle snap on way. Just rotate it like 5 degrees. There we go. Now let's just give this a shot. It's a little bit of subtle difference there. Actually, that's not subtle. That's intense. Maybe we'll go a little bit subtle. Go a little bit there. And then maybe from the side, we'll rotate it forward a little bit from the side. Alright, there we go. Now we will save, and now I'm going to simulate. And this will probably give us something a little bit more interesting. A lot of times when you're running simulations, you really need to get in there and try out a lot of different options. And I think because the original mesh we had was just straight up in all directions, what we were getting was a very bland result. Even putting in the wind, fine-tuning the wind, it's not worth it. You're better off just modeling something to give it form. In this case, just building something, rotating it ever so slightly so that the mesh starts to kind of go in a different direction. This is going to cause a couple more subtle folds to come through. And if anything, we may try out some different types of cloths that are in there to see if there's one that gives us a more interesting look overall. But really, running the cloth simulations is just about testing and trying it out. And by all means, this is not the only way to do this. You could just hand model it. This is just one option for you to try out. So I'm going to pause this while the simulation keeps running. Alright, so here we are with our most recent version of this cloth. Alright, well, let's be honest. I think we all agree it's still a little bit bland. Let's save this. We'll try it one more time. Let's erase the simulation. Let's go in here. Let's try a different type. Let's go ahead and we're going to just select silk and see what that does. And we'll kick it off real quick. Let's see. Ooh, silk can be pretty dramatic. I don't know. That might be a little bit too much for us. Ooh, it's bouncy. Look at that. Well, we'll see if the amount of bounce that it has continues or stops in time. So we'll just let that go for a little bit. And there we go. All right. Real quick, I'm going to erase. I'm going to stop. I'm going to hit cancel and stop this. I'm going to erase the simulation. And just down here at the bottom, what I'm going to do, get a little bit creative here. And let's take this whole thing, right, just the whole cloth portion. We're going to rotate it ever so slightly so that we can have it the corner, just kind of barely touching this guy. Lower that down a little bit so that it's still clipping through here. There we go. There we go. And let's try our group. Let's grab the point down here. And we'll attach, we'll say make group. And we're going to go ahead, we're going to attach him to the node as well. Or we're going to node it to the dummy. Alright, and now, go back up to the top. Alright, and simulate it. So now not only are there the points up at the top, but we also have this one point at the bottom, so that should cause some additional bunching to happen. That could be kind of cool. So let's see how this goes. Alright, a little bit bunchy, a little bit bouncy. Let's erase that. What did I tell it to be? Let's just go satin. I think it's the, where we had before. Is the satin too bouncy for us? I'm going to pause it and let this run. Alright, so my simulation finished. Let's take a look at this one. And not quite as interesting as I would have liked, but it'll do. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to call this, I'm going to convert this to an editable poly. Say standard underscore HP. I'll hide unselected. I'm going to copy that as LP. I'm going to hide unselected, and then I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to optimize this down by using my dot ring and remove loop. Let's go ahead, let's make this a darker color so you can see what's happening here. I'm basically just grabbing edges and dot ring, make sure I don't have the one at the very bottom, and then remove loop. And what this is doing is it's just simplifying down the model. So we'll do dot ring. I don't want the ones at the very corners there. And remove loop. Maybe we'll do one more. Modify selection dot ring. Don't want this one, and we'll remove loop. I'll probably get rid of this guy here. This one I might, oops. I'm going to use set flow. The tools I'm using, I've floated out of loops, but you can usually be fine under modeling. Alright, if I select this, this is still 1300, so I can optimize this down more. Let's do a dot ring, and I want to keep this one. I'll keep those two down there, but then I'm going to get rid of the rest. And let's do dot ring. And if I go loop, alright, so I want to keep this guy. Alright, this is still preserving its shape pretty well. So let's do dot ring, remove loop. I'm just going to I'm going to do a set flow there and just remove this loop here. Maybe not. Let's not do that after all. I think this is going to be fine. What did I get this down to? 210? Well, geez, apparently I could have kept a little bit more of that. Oh well. I mean, if I really wanted to optimize it down more, I could grab these two, collapse those edges, and then grab both these rings and collapse those down. So because this is a plane, it does have default polygons on it. We'll be able to map it and it'll look like it's stretching, so I'm not going to worry about that. So convert that to an edit poly. And so now we're just going to export this out. File, export selected. That same post folder, I'm going to call this banner underscore LP and save that. Unhide all, I'll go ahead and hide that guy, and let's take this, file, export, export selected, banner HP, and export that out. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to pause that here while I load up Substance and set up the file inside of there. Alright, I've loaded my texture for my banner in here. Now if you remember, I had a 2:1 aspect ratio. So under my texture set settings, I need to change that to match. And then I'm going to go ahead and save my file. And now if I go into Bake Mesh Maps, I just need to specify my high poly mesh. I'm going to increase my max front to 0.1, my max rear to 0.1. I'm going to change my output size to, again, that 2:1 aspect ratio. And I'm going to bake that map. So we're going through, and the texture is actually baking here. Alright, so it's subtle. It's a pretty subtle detail that comes in there. So now I could just come into materials, and I can find a good material that I like to use on there. Fabric base, denim. Oh, the denim might be good. It's got kind of a stronger sort of feel to it, and then all I would need to do is just go in here to, go into the attributes. Nope, not attributes. There's the technical parameters. Nope. How do we change the color of the denim? Huh. That's interesting. I'll just ditch it. Maybe I don't want denim then. I can't figure that out. I'm sure there's a way to do it. Fabric rough aligned. And then I'll just tile this more. There we go. That'll work. Yeah, this one's got color, so I make this a little bit brighter. There we go. Okay. So there we go. Now we have a kind of color set up with it. Right? And so we could bake that out. We'd be all set to do that. We can go ahead and bake that out. Alternatively, nope, I think we're just about done with this. We're just going to save it. File, save, and then file, export textures to that same folder. We're going to export those out. Go. We've exported our folders. So now inside of Photoshop, I'm going to go ahead and just open up my banner image. Hey, there it is. And what I'd like to do is I kind of want to work in some wear and tear on it. So let me go and bring in some. Alright, so I found some torn paper, and I'm going to make use of that actually. So let's take this. I'm going to scale it down. And what I'm creating here is called an opacity map. So anything that's black will not show up, and anything that's white will show up. So I'm just going to drag this down here to the bottom, and then I'm going to use my marquee tool. And now my selected transform and move this up. I think we'll probably, it occurs to me that I really don't necessarily need to have that up at the top. Definitely at the bottom, not the top. I'm going to actually just take this and do edit. Nope, I want to take that and I'm going to do Control J to move it to a new layer. Because I want to take this and edit, transform, rotate 90 degrees. So I kind of want to get this going on the side. But I really want it to be a little bit closer to the edge though. Let's move that over a little bit. There we go. And maybe do edit, transform. I want to do warp because I want to kind of warp this over a little bit to be a little bit closer to the edge without quite so much distortion. So warp just is kind of like these little, I'm going to do Control plus to move in. warp just kind of is going to allow you to do exactly what it says. It warps the image. So I'm just kind of taking there we go. I'll hit enter to finalize that. And now I can take this and, oops, if I do Control J, that'll clone it to a new layer. And I can move it down. Maybe I'll do edit, transform, flip, vertical. Of course that mirrors it. Let's see how bad. Well, why don't we move it up a little bit and then we could just use erase. Make that a little bit smaller here. I'll just erase it. I think I need to adjust the hardness on my eraser to be a little bit more. There we go. Okay. And then I can take the top part, clone that again, and then just move that down to the bottom. And this guy here, oops. All right, yeah, this guy here, I want to go in and use the eraser on to kind of erase those. All right. So there we go. Now I got a nice edge here. I'm going to select all those and Control E to clone them to one layer. And then move that over to the other side, edit, transform, rotate 180 degrees. All right, now I'll just move this over a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So then I can Control E to merge down, M for marquee to select, Alt backspace to fill, or edit fill up there. All right, so now I have tears on both sides. If I select this bottom layer, move that up, I now have a tear at the bottom, and all I would need to do is just come in here with my eraser and kind of work to blend the two of these here. All right, just being careful with the eraser. Make sure I get a nice blend here. Looks like I may need to adjust kind of the overall intensity of that. Let's do we'll do Control E and bring the two together, and then image, adjust, hue, saturation. I'm going to take out all the color, and then I'm going to go in and do image, adjust, levels, and I just want to take the black and raise the black up a little bit, and raise the white down. So there we go. Take that black down a little bit. Okay. All right. So here we go. Now I have my opacity map, and so I can save this. So File, Save As. This would be banner _ O, and I'm going to save it as a PNG file. There we go. And I don't need to save this image really. So. Okay, so back here in Max, if I go into the marquee tool, I'm sorry, modify tool, material editor, select my cloth, right click, assign material to selection, and bring in a bitmap. And the bitmap I want is going to be from the post. It's that banner opacity. And I plug that into the opacity. And say show realistic material in viewport. Now you can see how that works. Right. It's not completely perfect. It's kind of got these little flickering edges. So if we go in, I can turn off tile. Probably when I render it, you won't see it now. Yeah, see when you render it, it looks fine. If you really want to be a stickler for it so you don't see it in the viewport, you could just come in and grab all your verts and pull them in ever so slightly. So I'm in freeform, and I'm just going to bring it in just a little bit on the top. And all of a sudden, I realize that I'm working on the high poly, so it doesn't even matter. So I'll just hide that. I'm going to unhide by name my low poly, and that's the one I want to put the material on. And then same thing, I'm just going to put the unwrap on it, and I'm going to grab all these verts and just use my freeform to come up here to the corner and pull that down a little bit. Come to the other corner and bring that up a little bit. There we go. So, and now convert that at poly. Click over to the side, and now you can see, oops, there's a cloth. Put that on there. So you could go back and you could keep working on the cloth, but you don't need to have it. Opacity doesn't need to be just like that. Like you can find a nice cloth. You can find some nice tears. Pause this. Here's another opacity, another source image that I found online. I did Control U to do hue and saturation. I'm just going to take out all the color and go into levels and just kind of boost the white a little bit as well as boost the black. And I could set this to multiply on there. And I could just kind of move this around if I wanted to see if there's another spot I might want to kind of work something like this in. And really, I would have to be careful because really what I want to do is I only want to have, I was curious to see if I could work in some of these tears down here, but I don't want to get too much of the frayed edges going. So let's go kind of around here real quick. So I don't want the entire image to look too frayed. So just do edit, transform, rotate 180 degrees, kind of move this down. And then if I come in here, let's zoom in, reduce the size of this. Can maybe look like it's just a little bit torn here and there. There we go. If I go into levels, I can even adjust the levels to make the white even whiter. There we go. And then I can save this off. Yep, save it over it. And then if I come back in here to max, there we go. Oops, it's got that little bit of tear happening in it, right? And I could combine that, you know, if I have my texture, plug this into the diffuse, and I could just select my actual banner texture. There we go. So now, oops, I keep going to orbit, but I don't actually have it selected. So there we go. There's our object, right? There's our sort of banner object sitting there. And what we can do to finish things off is I'm just going to make a box. And I'm going to center it so it sits directly underneath the pole. I'm going to hide those other beams over there. Alright, so here's this box. And I'm going to convert it to an edit poly. And under attach, I'm going to attach all this geometry to it. And then I can just delete that box. Go up to the top level, delete the helper, I don't need him. I can select this model and I could call this banner. And now I have this object that I can sit and I can place inside of my environment anywhere that I wanted to. Also, if I go into the material, I can tell the material to be two-sided. All right. If I did need the banner to actually have double-sided polygons for both sides, what I can do is if I select the banner and detach it as another object, orbit around the other side. Turn that off. I'll select the banner here, and I could, it is an option for you to go in if you do need to have polygons for both sides, which sometimes you do. All right, sometimes you do need to have polygons for both sides because for lighting purposes, it's only going to light one side of the polygons and the back side will look different. So I would probably do like a 0.25 and a 0.25, something really small, right? And I believe, all right, so you got a shell in there. So then we're just going to convert this to edit poly. Issue with the shell is that it ends up creating polygons on the outside. So I'm just going to click on one and hold shift and click the one underneath. which is going to select that entire loop going all the way around. I'm going to delete it because you don't need those side polys. All right. So now as you orbit around your model, you'll see there's the mesh on both sides. Okay. So there we go. So now we've gone in and we've added it in there, and it turned out just fine. Now the only other thing would be if we had some kind of standard or symbol to sit on top of our. All right. I have an image here, and what I'm going to do is I want to throw this onto my banner. So I'm going to copy that and just paste that on here. You can see it's very large, so I'm just going to shrink it down and move it over here. Now this is stretched out a little bit, so I'm going to take this, move it over, and then I'm going to remove the color from it. And again in layers. Actually, what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to use my clone brush. Oops. So clone brush is over here. You hold Alt to select a surface, and you just replicate that surface going all the way through. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just filling this in, because at first I was thinking maybe I'll go in and just make it completely black and white and just overlay it, but actually I don't mind some of this paper texture coming through. I think it might look kind of cool. So let's see, almost done here. Paint up last little bit here. Alright, there we go. Now I'm just going to set this to multiply, and we'll adjust this down to like a 75, reduce the fill a little bit, 80, and there we go. So now I kind of have this sort of sitting on there, and it occurs to me I want to move it over, so maybe I'm going to do select all and do image crop, and then I'm going to take this new filter other offset, and I want to offset it just a very small amount. So I just want to move it over a little bit on the side. 5? Nope. Let's do filter other offset and do negative 25. I think that's good. And there we go. Let's go ahead and we'll do that file, save as, and I'm just going to save this as a PSD in case I want to come back to it. And then I'm going to save again as a PNG and just overwrite that base texture. And if we come back, hey, there we go. There's our new banner. So, ooh, creepy, right? Just to attach and attach the two of them together. All right, so there we go. There is our banner object. All right. Sitting there, going to perspective. So there you go. That's how you create a banner using cloth. So that's that. End of tutorial.